Welcome to the next episode of Prescribing Growth. This is the incredible video series where we talk to the top minds in auto reconditioning about what it looks like to grow a successful business, their tips, their tricks, their stories, their failures, their huge wins, so that you can learn a thing or two as you're looking to expand your business. My name is Matt McAllister. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Mobile Tech RX, and this is going to be a fun episode. I'm really excited about the guest we have today. We've got Cliff Mayer, the Regional Vice President at AutoWorks. He's been there for 2003, I think he said earlier, so he's been there for a while. And AutoWorks is a company that has seen some significant change, has seen some significant growth.
We definitely have.
So thanks for joining us, Cliff. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So tell us a bit more about AutoWorks. Give us the background.
Oh, well, AutoWorks, I joined up with, the short story, long story, I joined up with Bob Mills in 2003, shortly after the big storm down in Dallas. From there, we figured out that we were kind of aligned on the same thought process, same desires, and partnered up and didn't quite really know where it was going to go or how it was going to go, but we knew it was going to go somewhere. So we just kind of, to me, we focused on teamwork, getting together, starting that direction, and slowly building because we had a desire to grow. From there, through many years, we slowly added technicians to our pool, to our roster. We grew our accounts. We had a core basis, and it kept growing. We were very hail specific. We didn't limit ourselves to that. We put our fingers in. We had our fingers in quite a few different things, but we narrowed it down. But we did some clear bras and found out that you could make some money with clear bras, but we weren't that good at clear bras. At least I wasn't.
It's good to figure out early.
Right. So we, able to use that as a building tool, but still focus on PDR and hail. And as our market grew, we kept growing with it. We'd always expand outside of Colorado. To multiple states. There's probably more states, more body shops, I should say, that I've forgotten that I've been in than a lot of people have been in. And but there's still plenty of guys out there that have probably been in more shops than I've even been in my entire life. So
2003.
That was 2003.
To today, 2020. What's the size of AutoWorks? How many techs do you have working for you at any given time? I know it flexes.
We've got about 30, 35 guys that live in Colorado. Most cases we don't drop below 25 working. We'll get into about 100, 120.
Wow.
Not all working at the same time, but I think our peak has been close to 100.
And then what's the reach look like?
Multiple states. Typically we're working in about 10 different states at a time, or through a season, I'm sorry. And multiple at a time. Over 4.5 years ago, we had an interest on a private equity group. We found an opportunity that we could expand out and have some resources in terms of selling majority share of our company, to where we got way more interest than we ever anticipated. And I think a lot of that dealt with how we structured our business, how we did business. And we had a private equity group, which is pretty much a family private equity group, where their design is not to flip. It's long-term investment. And being there with them for 4.5 years, we've seen that. So with that, in terms of growth, I'm sorry if I'm getting sidetracked.
No, you're
perfect. Keep me on track if I need to.
You're great.
We've been able to expand with the market and the ever-growing changes when we see different body shop groups consolidating. We've seen some really big ones, and smaller ones keep getting bigger. We've had to keep up with that through technology, through resources, through other avenues. So definitely fortunate with the insurance companies that we've been able to partner with and help service. And that's kept us, I think, in the front running as an opportunity.
So before we go back to 97,
Yes.
Tell me, what is a regional vice president at a private equity-backed auto reconditioning company
Oh boy.
do? What does your day-to-day look like?
Mine is not like some of the other people. Mine's pretty hands-on in terms of meeting shops, technicians, being a technician, doing a lot of problem solving. When there are problems, there's not if, there's always problems. Whether it's a repair or an R&I or, matching the right technician to the right shop. I'm not a great email person.
Who is?
There's some people that are, not me. But it's a lot of touch points, a lot of travel. Been fortunate, it's very consolidated within our market for Colorado. That's been a very big piece of our company, but that has never stopped me in the past from going to different cities, different states. So it's all encompassing, but I try to narrow it down to the touch points between the technicians and the body shops.
So 97 is when you got started.
Yes.
Was that as a PDR tech? What was the start for you?
As a PDR tech. My start in the auto industry, tried selling cars, didn't work.
Said I'll fix them instead.
Well, I got a job at Earl Scheib. I'm not sure if we fixed them.
Sure.
So that was a different story. And then I progressed into a body shop, and this is in the Carolinas. And then I saw PDR there, tried getting out of the industry. And in 97, heard about PDR, and I was like looking for something, and I'm like, oh, there's nobody here. I'd moved back to Philadelphia at that time. There's nobody here doing it. And then I saw a truck drive by. Okay, I need to go find that company. And I got trained in 97. And in 2001, I made the choice to move to Colorado, specifically for hail, and got my teeth cut there.
Were you an individual PDR technician at that point? On the hail trail?
On the hail trail, yes.
Okay.
That was way before LED lights.
Yeah. You're using the sun.
I never used a light before. I'd use the shade board.
So how do you go? 2001, you moved to Colorado. 97, you get started.
Right.
Get trained, and during that period, 2001, you're in Colorado. You're an individual PDR tech, as many people are in the industry.
Right.
Then you start a company.
Well, I worked for another company in Colorado.
Okay.
Specifically for hail, and had some great experiences there. Found it wasn't the direction that I really wanted long term. We decided to start a company, met up with Bob. It's like, my company name sucks. AutoWorks sounds great.
What was the name of your company?
I put it family initials for Clear, CLR, and that was my family at the time, Clear Dent. And it was okay to let that one go.
So 2003 is when you met Bob?
Yes.
Okay. What was the foundation of AutoWorks? Were you existed just to be a hail PDR company? What was the goal?
That was first. The goal was to survive. Do dents. We were both good at dents. We were both good with hail, both good with people, and we knew that we could grow it. And both of our visions slightly different, which was good, but pointed in the general direction of where we wanted to go. And we kind of, we made a lot of mistakes, but we were good in terms of when we make mistakes, the next year we would reduce the amount of mistakes we would make. Definitely a lot of hard work, a lot of travel. Met a lot of people throughout the states. As I made it from Philadelphia to Colorado, made it back from Colorado back to Philadelphia. I'd probably say 3 years after we got together. Weird one was working in a dealership for my buddy who took over the route that I was running, and the owner came up and said, "Why isn't my hail done?" Like, I don't know. I'm just in here to help. He's like, "What do you mean? You're my PDR guy." I'm like, "I left 4 years ago." He couldn't figure it out.
That's a good foundation to have, though. So was the goal always to grow team with subcontractors?
We knew that was the best way because it's seasonal. I think the goal would be to create an environment where it was an opportunity for people to have a great working experience and a great opportunity to grow. To do that, you kind of need a little bit of a size to create stability. When you're an independent, it goes up and down a lot. When you become more than an independent, it still goes up and down, but you have a little bit more fluctuation, and I think you have a little bit more stability for the people that are working with you as a team, because everybody does need a vacation, and I think everybody knows that sometimes if you leave, you lose your spot. But if you can leave and not lose your spot, come slide back in, I think it's a great opportunity.
So how much growth did you see early on in those early years?
I would probably say the first 4 or 5 were definitely the toughest. We still had growth. I'd have to look back at numbers, but to get to $1 million in revenue in a year, I think that was groundbreaking, and that could have been somewhere year 5, maybe year 8. I'm not sure. But I don't think we ever went back from there. But to get there was tough.
What was the toughest part?
Systems, accounting. We did everything on paper, so we turned that into our accountant, or we tried to do it ourselves. Definitely some experiences, not necessarily good ones at times, but we learned from it.
And how many people were on the team in some kind of capacity in those first 5 years?
First 5 years, basically Bob and myself.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm just hustling for 5 years with Bob and yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you have subcontractor help for
Yeah,
specific
we definitely had
storms?
subcontractor help. We'd fluctuate with part-time, full-time bookkeeper. It's tough to remember all the details.
Of course.
Things became a lot more stable once Patty came on board, Bob's wife. Luckily, I didn't have to fire her. That was a good thing. They got married, so that was good. That was a tough conversation Bob was going to tell me if she said no.
That is definitely a unique way to get your job.
Yeah. And, up till 4.5 years ago, we peaked at 4, 5 employees. And then everybody else was subcontractors.
So 2003, 2008 is when, that's the startup story of a small team trying to build something, find some product market fit, broke your first $1 million in revenue at about 2008?
It must be before then.
Sure.
Because 2009 was a very big year for us.
What happened in 2009?
A big storm had hit in Denver, and we had partnered with Vince Ficcarelli with Hank's Auto Body, and fantastic experience. Tough. He ran a very tight ship. We learned a lot with him, partnered up with him. We partnered up with him at that time for an off-site retail location to where we were shuttling cars. We still have that building at present. After about 6 months, he's like, okay, we're done.
How do you capitalize on, storms happen everywhere, and there's hail chasers all over the country.
Yes.
With the goal of turning one storm into the thing that catapults their business.
You have to be ahead of the game.
How?
Once we switched to the technology side, I never wanted to get away from my handwriting, but to have something that interfaced really good with the body shops. It was broken down. We could process, we could import into QuickBooks. That was a big game changer because we could handle a lot more. And it made a lot of sense to people. That wasn't easy, even though it was technology. There's, the systems behind it took effort.
And there's also an element of manpower that's necessary. If a storm happens, how do you have as many people as possible efficiently to manage this time-based occurrence?
Right.
How did you manage scaling up and down with the processes?
The systems, the scale, with the core group as it grew within, call it this first 5 years, everybody had the same expectation. So when we needed to put them on the north side instead of the south side, everybody knew this is how we're doing business. I think shops helped because everybody, the shops, the MSOs were growing, so systems were staying the same. So it was an easy platform. It wasn't trying to do it one way over here and another way over there. That helped. But expectation. Everybody knew what was expected. You had a consistent pricing piece, the formula in terms of what it takes to build an estimate.
So now it's 2020. With all the knowledge and experience you have, if you got thrown back somehow into 2003, is there anything you would have done in those first 5 years differently?
Tough to say to do anything differently, but I would probably say, would there be anything that's out there now that would have made a difference then? For sure. Technology has changed so much, from the lights to the tools to the glue pull, estimating, invoicing. Lights is probably one of the most important pieces. Trying to learn how to fix a dent with a fluorescent tube and a PVC pipe, not so fun.
So the latest transition, obviously, taking on a partner in a private equity group. And there are not many companies in auto reconditioning who go through that experience.
No.
What was that like to be the founding member of a company called AutoWorks in 2003 and now have this opportunity to partner with a private equity group?
It was a weird experience between sobering and refreshing. The hardest thing is having a successful partnership. That's difficult. As Bob Mills would always tell me, it's like a marriage. There's good points, there's bad points. There's plenty of conversations that we got to have on the phone, thank goodness, because if we were face to face, probably a losing conversation for me. But with the partnership group, we're always in this industry trying to explain what we do. So we had to make sure that language point was consistent to them in terms of how they were hearing it, how they were understanding it, because our industry, the PDR industry, just by itself, very difficult to understand. From a business side, there's like, oh, so the dents just pop out and you get paid, right? No.
That's not how it works?
Right, I really wish it was. So there was a big learning curve. And
was that in the communication with the private equity?
Communication would be a piece in terms of their understanding, in terms of the needs of growth and moving forward. A lot of pieces were translated pretty quick, and that was, you could see that within the insurance development, being able to take on USA within our first year.
So how did that whole situation come about? How does private equity find AutoWorks in Denver, Colorado?
Well, we had a company that found us and said, we think we can market you. We're like, okay. Didn't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. I think 6 months later they came back and, okay, show us what you got. And like, no, this is what we think, what you guys have put together, what we think we can help you grow your business this way and get you in front of these people. And I think we had over 100 companies look at our, whatever their teaser letter was. And I think we had 15 sign non-disclosure type stuff. And we had about 5 or 6 when it came down to letters of intent for us to sit and go, we want to choose you or we want to choose you. So that was a really interesting piece. And
what year was that?
Was that 2016?
Okay.
I don't know.
13 years into running AutoWorks.
2014.
And then since private equity, how much has the company changed? What is the difference between AutoWorks 2003 to 2014?
Well, we're not as lean as what we used to. So it's a little bit segmented, but there's a lot of structure behind it, and that just gives us the ability for growth, I think, and the ability to take on more.
What's it like to sit back and remember 2003, see one of the 2 co-founders, and now seeing AutoWorks in 2020?
It's hard to explain because it was so long ago, but also never necessarily saw myself exactly, or us to be exactly here. I think there's always hopes, you know. Do you want to be the biggest or the best? Sometimes you pick both. You know, we always focus on trying to be the best at what we did, not necessarily the biggest.
And what do you tell? I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people that were in the same shoes you were in 2001, 2003.
Right.
I'm a PDR tech who wants to take the next step, which might be start my own business.
Right.
I want to become a PDR tech. What's the advice you give those guys who want to eventually have a company like AutoWorks?
Well, I think start exactly kind of what you said, starting to be a PDR tech. Really know your industry, and the apprenticeship really makes a big difference to be able to work with somebody. You may not work with them the rest of your life, but if you work, the more people that you work with, the more you're going to learn in different fashions. It's still an artwork. It's still it's a form of metallurgy in terms of how you're moving, manipulating metal. No car's the same, no dent's the same. So you have to kind of think out of the box, but you have to learn those pieces. In terms of problem solving, be a good problem solver, because each one's a different puzzle. Getting to that panel, getting to that access to that car, it's a different problem. I mean, yeah, you get to take the same thing apart over and over again, but they always change it. But the same principles are behind it in terms of access for R&I. So if anything, I'd probably say start out as R&I, get to know the car, work on PDR, keep that apprenticeship, and as you develop, as you grow, you have to push yourself, because it'd be great to do dents, quarter size, half dollar size all day. It's not the case. And then if you can take that, once you learn how to do it with a car, apply it to your business in terms of little steps. You know, it's not about having the best invoice or the best estimate, but you need to understand how you get there in terms of that communication, that presentation.
What are some of the biggest things you didn't know that you wish you had known back then? Finances, marketing, sales, partnerships. I mean, all of these things are not necessarily trained in PDR school.
Right. Definitely not trained in PDR school. That's real life experience. Learn from other people's mistakes, talk to people. But you're going to have to get your teeth cut, go get your feet wet, whatever you want to call it. Probably not going to have the same accountant first year as you do year 8. So be willing to explore. Listen to other people in terms of the type of questions that they're asking and what type of answers are being received back. Apply that. That's part of what a lot of people don't do, and that's listening, reading books. You know, if you listen to a podcast, probably on a good path. You probably listen to books on tape. Hopefully not Harry Potter, but
it's a great book.
Yeah, you still could read. But you know, simple things: how to win friends, influence people.
AutoWorks and Mobile Tech RX have a new partnership.
Yes.
What gets you excited about the future, not just for AutoWorks but for the industry? There's a bunch of different ways to take a look at that. The technology side, in terms of having accountability in your hand, to be able to refer back to something that was done a week ago, a month ago, 2 years ago. That makes a big difference in terms of where the future kind of goes, because all these cars are getting smarter. We have to take a look at scanning. Do you scan? Do you not scan? Do you charge? Do you not charge? To understand why you're scanning and why you're charging. I think technology has great advantages to keep things simple. Sometimes it's too simple. It's so simple that somebody else doesn't want to do their job, they want to give it to you. Sure.
But it's still their job, and the responsibility falls on you. And when you can get that to really overlay into their system, different story, I think.
Well, Cliff, the AutoWorks story, from 2003 to today is incredible. I know Mobile Tech RX has been on a journey over the last few months with you guys, and we're super excited to see your business grow as our business grows.
Yeah.
Appreciate you jumping on an episode.
Absolutely.
I think your story is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think we're finding a solution that works.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Cliff.
Absolutely.